Hey guys, so today I will be filling in the 2024 electoral map, and on your screen here this is the 2020 electoral map, and basically any state that wasn't perfectly 100% solid was probably going to be a battleground state, the states that you see in yellow, and these light red and light blue states, they were states that had, 97 to 98% chance of going to either candidate. So this was the map right here for the 2020 election. You had basically all of the blue wall, or what was formerly the blue wall. You also had Iowa and Ohio, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, as well as the Sunbelt states of Nevada, Arizona, Texas, as well as the second districts of Nebraska and Maine. So those were the main battleground states. For Donald Trump, you of course had his 125 pretty solid electoral votes, and for Joe Biden, 203. So before we take a look at the 2024 map, make sure you join my Discord server if you have not. We'll be updating you guys on the Georgia Senate race a lot more there as well. So make sure you join that if you have not, the link to which is at the very top of the description below. So taking a look at the 2020 map and comparing it to the 2024 map, what you'll see is that there are going to be less battleground states on this map because after the 2020 election, many states have moved quite a bit to the left or to the right. Very few states actually moved closer to the middle, but we'll see what happens. So taking a look at the 2024 map, this is the 2024 map with the updated electoral college votes. So you'll see states like Michigan have lost 1 electoral vote, so now 15 instead of 16 that we saw in 2020, and states like Texas at 41 now. Florida is also at 31, and then New York is down to 27. So first, I'm just going to be filling in the solid states for the Democrats, and this is just a generic Democrat versus a generic Republican. We haven't really gotten too many or any at all announcements for campaigns in 2024. Really depends on whether Trump is going to run again. I think if he runs, he probably is not going to win the election, but he probably has a very high chance at reclaiming the Republican nomination for a third time. And Joe Biden really depends on whether or not Joe Biden is going to run for re-election and whether or not Kamala Harris, his vice president, will be able to win the nomination, because Kamala Harris is a weaker candidate than Joe Biden. You clearly saw that in the 2020 race. She dropped out earlier than many other candidates, although she had a lot of momentum going into the race. So filling in the solid Democratic states, Washington, Oregon, California. Oregon was not solid for Hillary Clinton in 2016, but in 2020, Joe Biden made that state solid. It had really no chance of going to Donald Trump and is not going to go to a Republican in 2024 either. Illinois is going to stay a Democratic state, as well as most of the Northeast. So 4 years, you're really not going to see, any large shifts, in too many places, but we are going to see quite a few states shifting either quite a bit to the left or quite a bit to the right. We also have the Maine at-large vote, as well as the 1st District of Maine. Those two are going to remain solid for the Democratic Party, as they have been for decades. So really, the final 2 solid states for the Democratic Party, they are going to be Colorado and New Mexico. Although the margins in these states are not going to be solid, this is going on off of the percentage chance of victory. These 2 states both used to be Republican stronghold states for decades before, the 2000s. I mean, these states, they were solid red, but now the Democrats have been able to basically completely flip these states. They were both over 10% margins, and they will only continue to shift to the left. And you saw that John Hickenlooper defeated Cory Gardner there in Colorado, and Ben Ray Lujan also won his first term in the Senate as well. So the Senate was very, very well for the Democrats there in Colorado and New Mexico, and so was the presidential race in those 2 states as well. So that will give the Democrats 193 electoral votes with just their most solid blue states. Now for Donald Trump, or not Donald Trump, so used to saying that for the Republicans, but just for the Republican Party, it's going to be basically almost the same states for the states that are going to be solid red. However, Kansas, Missouri, I will put in the solid red category. I think that they were not the greatest of margins for Donald Trump in 2020, but in 2024, it's probably going to be a further increase to the right, and the state of Indiana will also be a solid red state. So that's what I meant. A lot of states moved either further to the right or further to the left. The at-large vote, as well as the 1st and 3rd districts of Nebraska, are also going to be completely solidly red. Now, taking a look at some of the lean states for the Democrats, we only have 3 of them on this map, and the first state is New Hampshire, which is going to continue to be in the likely column for the Democratic Party as it was in 2020. And then in 2024, we can also add the states of Minnesota and Virginia. Minnesota was a 7% margin, while the state of Virginia was an over 10% margin. So Joe Biden did much better than Hillary Clinton in both of these 2 states. So these states, I think, have a very high chance of going to the Democratic Party in 2024. Now, for the Republicans, there are going to be quite a few more, and actually for the Democrats, the 2nd district of Nebraska, I also at this point think is going to be relatively solid for the Democratic Party, and so is the 2nd district of Maine, which is going to be likely for the Republican Party. Now, continuing on the Republican states, Alaska and South Carolina, just like they were in 2020, these 2 states will remain likely. They're not going to be solid, and they're probably going to continue to move to the left. However, in 2024, there is no way that these 2 states are going to flip in favor of the Democratic Party. The states of Iowa and Ohio as well, these states, just 8 years ago, they were both won by Barack Obama, and he won those states in 2008 as well. They were lost by huge margins for Hillary Clinton, and then Joe Biden, it looked as if he was going to have a very good chance at flipping these 2 states red once again. However, he barely did any better than Hillary Clinton in these states of Iowa and Ohio. Those rural voters did not come out for Joe Biden. They continued to vote for the current president, and that is why these 2 states really are no longer battleground states. Democrats targeted Ohio quite a bit. It's lost 1 electoral vote on this electoral map, and in the future it's probably going to continue to lose electoral votes, and it's going to wane its significance. But the state of Ohio and Iowa, these 2 states are probably not going to go blue in a very long time unless the Democratic Party can turn out a candidate that will really be able to shift the views of those more rural voters, because that is what the Democrats lack in the 2 states of Iowa and Ohio. Taking a look at the results here, Ohio, it was an 8.1% lead, and then the state of Iowa was a little bit better for Joe Biden. It was around 8.2%. However, the margins here, it was 9% for Trump over Clinton in 2016 and 8% in Ohio. So although Joe Biden did do marginally better, it was barely an increase, much smaller than what almost everybody had expected out of the states of Iowa and Ohio. So definitely a very great disappointment. And then for the Democratic Party, I forgot to fill in the state of Hawaii. Yes, that is going to be solidly blue. So this is going to give the Democrats 224 electoral votes to the Republicans at 148, with their solid and likely states. With the rest of these states, I view as being battleground states, states that both campaigns are going to try to target in 2024. This reason why Iowa, Ohio, states like Minnesota or Colorado, New Mexico, and New Hampshire, and Virginia even is not in this battleground state column, it's just because I do not think that the candidates in 2024 are going to try to target these states if, they're held by the opposing party. So I don't think that a Republican is going to try to win Minnesota that much, or a Democrat trying to win Ohio. It just probably is not going to happen and not worth their time. And taking a look at the 2020 map, you see a huge increase in the amount of votes they would win, from 125 to 148 for the Republicans, and then from 203 to 224. And this is just because, like I said, most states have continued to move to the right or to the left. Really, not too many states have actually moved towards the middle. Now, taking a look at the rest of these states, I'm going to try to give most of these states a classification. So, although, I'm really not too sure about this, but I will try to fill in this electoral map so we don't have 166 electoral votes worth of battleground states. So, the reason why Texas is on this map, I do not believe the Democratic Party is going to be able to flip Texas in 2024. Because of what happened in 2020, it would still, it was still a 5.5% margin here in the state of Texas. Although it is quite a bit lower than the 9% margin in 2016, it is still 5%. And in 2024, Texas is not on track to flipping. 2028 would be a much more reasonable target. However, really the most likely at this point, because of what we saw, I expected Texas to be quite a bit closer. Because of what we saw in 2020, it might even take until 2032 for the state of Texas, which is rapidly increasing electoral votes, to finally be blue. So the state of Texas, 41 electoral votes. I am sure the Democratic Party is going to try to target this state in 2024, but at this point in time, it is just not going to go to them. The state of Florida has also moved quite a bit to the right after 2020, after 2016 compared to 2020. This was really one of the only states that actually was better for Hillary Clinton than it was for Joe Biden, and that is because Joe Biden did not get the Latino vote, the voters or the votes from the Cubans in this Miami-Dade County area. 53-46, that was a very, very disappointing margin for Joe Biden in Miami-Dade, the largest county in the state. I believe it was over 65% for Hillary Clinton. And, that couple 100,000 votes lost Joe Biden the state of Florida. Miami-Dade was a great disappointment for him. And that really did just let the Democratic Party down. Palm Beach, Broward, they weren't that great for Democrats either. Joe Biden was able to flip Pinellas County, though, so that was good for him. He was also able to flip Duval County. So really, it was just this southern area where a lot of Cubans reside in the state of Florida that lost Joe Biden the state. Although he won both these three largest counties, it was not enough, and he lost the state of Florida by a pretty large margin to Donald Trump, a margin of 3.3%. Remember, it was 1.2% in 2016. So the state of Florida at this point, it's probably going to be a battleground state, a toss-up state for a very long time. But right now, I would give the state of Florida to the Republican Party. We have, I believe, 7 more states left. Let's go from left to right. So the state of Nevada, I believe, will continue to be a Democratic state. Joe Biden won this state by a margin of 2.4%. That is identical to Hillary Clinton's margin from 2016. And I think that although the race is going to be close, I do believe the state of Nevada will continue to be a Democratic state, putting them up at 230 electoral votes. The state of Arizona as well, 12 electoral votes. Another increase from 2020. This state was very, very narrowly won by Joe Biden. But the thing is that this state is going to continue to move to the left. And with Donald Trump's unpopularity here, that was one of the main reasons why Joe Biden was able to win the state. But Arizona is going to continue to move to the left. And I think that with that, in 2024, Arizona is going to be a Democratic state once again. They have 2 Democratic senators now, Kyrsten Sinema and Mark Kelly, who are both already in the United States Senate. And I just think that in the state of Arizona, it's going to be close, but it's probably going to be Democratic state once again, in my opinion. And then we have 5 more states left. These are really the states that matter the most, I guess, in my opinion. These states are really going to decide the election because, as you can see, it's 242 to 220 electoral votes. Once again, the Rust Belt is going to be key here. No party, Joe Biden, or not Joe Biden, but the Democrats can win without these 3 Rust Belt states. But the Rust Belt is still probably the best way for either party to win. So taking a look at these states, these 4 states, the 3 states in the Rust Belt, as well as Georgia, were won by Joe Biden, while Trump won North Carolina. I do believe that Michigan will continue to remain a Democratic state, although it is looking very, very shaky for them. Michigan is not looking too great. This blue wall, it was close in 2000, 2004. It did go to George W. Bush, this blue wall. Or I believe, no, it did not go to George Bush. I believe it went to John Kerry and Al Gore. I'm not too sure actually, but these 3 states, they were very close in 2000, 2004. Barack Obama is really the reason why, it made it look like these states were so strongly blue, because he won these states by 7, 8, 9% margins. He blew it out of the water in the 3 states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in 2008. He got so many voters that never voted in these states to come out for him, and that is why these states seem so blue. In 2012, it was an okay, strong margin. 2016, Clinton lost all of it. 2020 Joe Biden managed to flip it back. So I think that although, in the last couple of decades, it has technically been trending to the right, I think that these 3 states are going to remain Democratic states in the 2024 election. Wisconsin is probably the one I'm most unsure about because the least amount of metropolitan area in Wisconsin, that's where Democrats tend to do better. But these 3 states, they all flipped for the former vice president, now the president-elect. And then the state of Georgia, Joe Biden flipped this state. And again, same thing with Arizona. The margins here were very, very small. But this state will continue to move to the left, in 2024, 4 years. I mean, I think that this state has already moved 5 points to the left from 2016. In 4 years, I think that it's not going to be a 5-point margin for the Democrats, definitely not. But I think that this state will remain a Democratic state, and Georgia will have been flipped blue pretty solidly by then. And then finally, the state of North Carolina. This state was pretty heavily expected to go to Joe Biden if Georgia was going to go to Joe Biden. I mean, I definitely thought that Biden was going to win North Carolina and not Georgia, but it turns out it was the other way around. I mean, Barack Obama did a lot of campaigning there for Joe Biden in the final days. They really did put a lot of effort into Georgia. North Carolina, they kind of, campaigned there quite a bit less compared to Georgia. So I think that with, the Democrats having, a pretty strong chance of winning Georgia, I think that North Carolina, they're probably going to focus on more. And I do think that the Democratic Party can win the state of Georgia, definitely. It was already a pretty large shift to the left from 2016. It's a 1.3% margin for Donald Trump, and I think that this state, like Georgia, like Arizona, is going to continue to move to the left, and I think that in 2024, this state will flip blue. So this is my very early 2024 electoral map projection: 318 electoral votes to 220 for the Republican Party. In every state that is in the lightest or the lightest blue, I can still see going either way. So I'm not saying that Democrats are going to win 318. I'm just saying that if you had a generic Democrat versus a generic Republican run in 4 years, I think that this is what the map would look like based off of historical trends and what we saw in the 2020 election. So the 2020 electoral map, I mean, basically you just had Democrats flipping all of the blue wall. If you want to have a little comparison here, they won Georgia as well. I'll make them a little bit lighter, actually, these toss-up states. And then you had the Republicans winning Texas, winning Iowa, Ohio, North Carolina, as well as the state of Florida. So it was 306 to 232. I'm not sure which states I'm missing. All right. Yep. So these 3 or these 2 right here. And so 306 to 232 in 2020. This is the 2020 electoral map on your screen right here. And in 2024, I'm expecting it to be an increase, 318 to 220. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe to my channel if you have not. Comment your thoughts on this electoral map. What would you guys change? What do you agree with? What do you guys disagree with? Make sure you join my Discord server if you have not. And I will see you guys in the next video.